People are saying we're losing a generation. And at some point, if this doesn't stop, we will lose a significant part of a generation of people.
The new face of addiction. It's often not what you picture. It's growing, changing, and devastating families. It's a problem that will affect everyone in Arkansas. We can and must do something to end the crisis of addiction. Tonight, we take you on a journey to show you the fight, the impact, and the recovery. We are working to save a generation.
Parker, look at me, taking your picture. Can you sing happy birthday? Happy birthday. Yeah, that's good.
Parker
Sing it again.
was the life of the party. You know, whenever Parker was around, you knew it wasn't going to be a boring time.
When you ride your bicycle. Yeah.
Great big brother. He was a protector of his sisters. Loved to play with Brinley, read her books, and hide her in the closet when she was a baby. He was funny. He loved to make people laugh. And he never walked out the door without giving you a hug and saying, "I love you, Mom." We were very close. He told me lots of things I didn't necessarily want to know. He did start smoking marijuana at 14, and I don't believe that he did much more than that until at least a couple of years later. I think that that drugs began as an escape for him from his ADHD and his anxiety, and I think that had a lot to do with why he used. Our relationship stayed the same. I mean, he wasn't angry, or he still came around. We still talked every day, but it didn't deter him from using drugs. It was just a nightmare. There's just no other way to describe it. It didn't seem real. It still doesn't seem real, even though I've relived it over and over.
Jake was just, he was the kind of guy that all the girls wanted to date him, and all the guys wanted to be him. He loved football. He was a great football player, co-captain of the football team in his junior and senior year. He was a special kid. The first sign that we knew something was actually going on was he and a couple of his buddies were arrested in Alsop Park for purchasing painkillers. And it just started going down from there. For the first time in my life and Jake's life, I saw that he was losing control. his behavior was worse than it's ever been. It was totally out of his body. He was angry. He was visibly impaired, more so than we'd ever seen him. He was belligerent. And these are the characteristics of Jake that weren't ever there. So the plan was, I'll pick you up tomorrow. That's 12 hours too late. And you'll never forget where you were. It's one of those events that just, it's branded into your mind. Your world goes pretty dark after that.
My mom always made fun of me because I always wanted to be a ballerina. I took a lot of dance classes and I did dance up until my senior year of high school. My life was it was normal. A lot of my friends were going to U of A in Fayetteville, and I decided that, that's where I wanted to go, and I applied and I got in. I got into a sorority. I got, moved into dorms, I made a lot of friends. I started drinking a lot, and I guess it started attracting like the wrong types of people, and I don't know, I guess I got like the wrong kinds of friends, and then I started trying new things. Whenever I found out that I could sell like my prescription pills, like it attracted wrong people. After I had like gone to college and had to move back home, I started getting involved into harder drugs because I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I couldn't make it, I couldn't even get a job, this isn't worth it. And so I started doing heroin. That's when I got addicted. I wanted to chase that feeling of heroin, and then eventually it led to an overdose. They attempted to get ready to put me in a body bag, and then I woke back up and they said that the person who was on this stretcher yesterday had died from a heroin overdose. And they assumed that that's what I had been doing, and they thought it was too late. When I got to the hospital and I started to feel better, I wanted to stop. I started crying and I was like, I just want this to stop. This is embarrassing. Like, all these people now know that I'm doing this at the hospital, and I don't want to do this anymore. I didn't stay sober the first few times that I tried, but at least I kept doing the work. This person told me to call her every single day, and I did, even though that I was getting messed up. It was like giving me that responsibility of knowing that, hey, I hope you realize you're getting messed up again, you're doing this again. I've been sober since September 18, 2015. I can only worry about it one day at a time. I can't, think about how I might want to relapse next week. I just think about today.
Tell me exactly what happened.
You're overdosing on heroin right now.
Is she breathing normally?
No, not normally.
Okay, and you said she took heroin?
Yes, sir. They're doing CPR on her right now.
Okay, so listen, can you get the phone in there with her?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Keep going.
3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're here. Thank you, sir.
All right.
I didn't think it was that bad. You kind of hear stories, and you kind of have a picture of, what a heroin addict looks like to you. But then you get out there and you realize that it's not what you thought.
It's a guy slumped over out here in his truck. He got syringes on the passenger side of it.
Is he breathing, do you know?
No, sir, I do not know.
It's a problem we often only hear about. But for first responders, it's an epidemic they witness firsthand every single day.
You try not to have any expectations because you never really know what you're going to run into.
According to Metropolitan Emergency Medical Services in Little Rock, the number of overdose calls in which Narcan was administered has more than tripled in the past 4 years.
But heroin seems to be the primary opiate for the overdose. We get pills every once in a while and stuff like that, but usually those are a lot less common.
Some of those calls, repeat victims, a deadly cycle of addiction.
You try to have a come to Jesus moment with them, and sometimes you're hoping they're responsive and they're hearing you because they were just circling the bucket and you brought them back to life, and it might be an opportune time to, but no, you'll be back.
It's just astounding numbers, but it's also astounding at the number of lives that we lose every single year. And we lose lives not just in terms of because they have passed away, they have overdosed, but also in terms of they are no longer able to function in society, that they have absolutely crippled by their own addictions.
Just to our east, drug overdose deaths have hit an all-time high. Here in Tennessee, the state has seen a significant increase in the number of drug overdose deaths, largely due to the growing use of dangerous synthetic opioids, drugs that are already making their way into Arkansas. Our team traveled to Nashville, Tennessee to meet with Stan Jones, special agent for the DEA. In his 31 years of law enforcement, he says this opioid epidemic is unlike anything he has ever seen.
We're seeing, teenagers in middle school age of young people who are not only becoming addicted, but who are dying.
Jones says the DEA is seeing an increase in dangerous synthetic opioids like fentanyl being shipped into the U.S. from Mexico and China in mass quantities.
Between a 2 and a 3 milligram difference can be the difference between getting high and overdosing and dying.
Fentanyl on the streets is a major concern, but Jones says this epidemic started largely due to overprescribing by pain clinics.
We've gone to this trend of trying to satisfy patients and eliminate pain, and I think unfortunately we have a pendulum of where it's often turned into overprescribing or excessive prescribing.
This is why we have seen this increase in epidemic, is because the sheer volume prescriptions available, the accessibility for young people, for those with addictions to acquire them.
Is he breathing, do you know?
These addictions resulting in scenes like this one.
No, sir, I do not know. We just looked in there for the truck and sitting out there for 2 hours.
This time, a life saved, a second chance to make a difference.
You're giving someone another chance. It's what they do with that chance is their responsibility.
When we're going to these calls, we're seeing these people that's overdosing, and you look at them and they're the same age as your children or your family or nieces, nephews, and it's heartbreaking.
It's a tragic reality for Independence County Sheriff Sean Stevens. In the little over a year since he's been sheriff, he's seen a rise in the number of overdose calls.
If I had to guess, I would say probably an average of 2 to 3, maybe 4 calls a week on overdoses in the county.
Does that surprise you?
No.
In April of 2017, the Independence County Sheriff's Office became the first in the state to receive the opioid antidote Narcan. Since then, officers have saved 8 lives, 2 of them saved by Sheriff Stevens.
I think the last time I looked, I was the only one in the state that has done that.
It's very gratifying, and it feels like maybe you have a purpose in life, that you're doing something to help prevent that tragedy and another family having to go through it.
Elisa and Scott Lancaster were behind the push to get Narcan into the hands of first responders in Independence County. Their daughter Chelsea's death, the catalyst for their mission. She was just 26 years old when she overdosed on a mix of prescription medications.
We kind of thought we were out there on an island in dealing with this, and we're not on an island at all. It is a tremendously prevalent problem, and it's got to be addressed.
We've kind of changed the name to an opidemic because we have seen epidemic proportions of it.
For the past year, State Drug Director Kirk Lane has been working with the Attorney General's office and several state agencies on securing grants to get Narcan into the hands of law enforcement.
We have about 450 kits out statewide, and the next 3 months we'll probably have 2,000 or 3,000 kits out there. We've identified 8 counties for 2018 and intend to identify 8 counties each year for the next 5 years.
Since the state began keeping track in 2016, law enforcement armed with Narcan have saved more than 60 lives.
It's a shocking number because of what's going on, but it's also a good number because we may turn our mortality rate that we're seeing on overdose around.
This plaque, a constant reminder of the fight to save lives.
This is part of the fix. There's some other things that need to happen, but we can turn this crisis around.
"23-year-old Braylon Campbell looks like your average college student. In his first year at Texas Tech, he's meeting new friends and making good grades. But just a few years ago, his life was far different.
I've probably been arrested more than 20 times just for drugs and alcohol.
The Little Rock native began drinking and using drugs when he was just 14 years old, a downward spiral that eventually led to an addiction.
I thought it was fun at the time, but in reality, what I was doing is I was creating an addiction for myself that I would later have to face in my life.
It was a path of destruction for Campbell, a path that eventually led him to Lubbock, Texas, and the Collegiate Recovery Program at Texas Tech.
Once a person gets in recovery, they're looking for a purpose and a mission in life. They're looking for a second chance. And universities can be those places.
Dr. George Comiskey is the director for the Center of Collegiate Recovery Communities at Texas Tech. The program, which has been in place for over 30 years, gives students in recovery the support they need to succeed in college.
The dean was very supportive of us being a place for people to land and have a second chance. And they knew that many of these students would come either with maybe a GED, maybe having had an attempt at college and crash and burn, which what addiction does to people. So let's give them a second chance.
From weekly recovery meetings to on-campus dorms to a safe space where students can study and hang out. The program currently has 120 students, all on scholarship, thanks in large part to private donors.
If they are struggling with their GPA, then that allows us to override that because they're a person on scholarship, and the scholarship is for them being a person of recovery.
Considered the gold standard of collegiate recovery programs, colleges and universities across the country look to Texas Tech to start recovery programs of their own, including the University of Arkansas.
The model that, I used to get this all started was Texas Tech's model.
3 years ago, Dr. Asher Morgan started the Razorback Recovery Community at the University of Arkansas, an environment for students in recovery to receive support. Morgan admits while the program is small, serving only about 2 to 3 students, there is room for growth.
It's the same with just about any program that you want to see get started. It's staff, it's resources, it's money. We have a dedicated space. Space is awesome. And just getting it out there and letting them know that it's there and letting them know that, hey, this is a safe place that you can come and you don't have to worry about stigma and you don't have to worry about shame.
I think that we've got an opportunity to really, lead the state and really address the issue head on.
Trevor Valines with the Student Government Association says he's been working with the university and state leaders to raise funding and awareness for a more enhanced recovery program, like the one at Texas Tech.
It definitely needs to happen. It probably will take time, and I think if you do it right, then this will save lives.
I feel confident that when we have the information to indicate, and I feel confident that we will, that this is impactful for our community, that we'll have the support of our stakeholders to continue with that.
These collegiate recovery programs already changing the lives of so many, like Campbell, giving him a fresh start and a future.
I pretty much thought that I was destined to continue the same cycle, and this broke it.
Tonight, I've shared with you many stories of loss and recovery, the problem and the fight to find a solution. But there's one story that I haven't shared with you, and that story is mine. On September 16th of 2015, I lost my boyfriend to a heroin overdose. I was blindsided. I had no idea the hold that addiction had on Brock's life, or that it would take his life at the young age of 27. You see, I never thought I would be personally affected by this epidemic. I read the stories, and my heart hurt for those families who lost someone that they loved. But I never thought that this would happen to me. So that is why I'm sharing my story with you tonight. After 2.5 years of keeping quiet, out of fear of shame, guilt, judgment. You see, the reality is this epidemic knows no boundaries. It doesn't care if you're young or old, rich or poor. It doesn't care if you live in a great neighborhood and your kids go to a great school. It doesn't care if you're a news anchor with a blossoming career, planning your life with the man you love. This disease affects us all in one way or another. And this is why I am so dedicated to this fight, and why you have my commitment and the commitment of THV11 to continue to share these stories, to raise awareness, to educate, to eliminate the stigma. We are in this fight together, the fight to save a generation.